So this video is for the man who wants to step into his masculine power unapologetically. In order to do that, you have to understand what your power is. What is the core that you have within you, the essence that you carry within you that differentiates you from all of the other crappy images or masculine figures that you've had in your life. A man who wants to actualize his potential will start questioning what is at his core. And that question itself is a very deep and spiritual question. To be able to understand the masculine essence, you have to get into the spiritual, energetic understanding of it. Because before anything is physical, it is first spiritual. And that is an axiom that must be understood with every single question that comes into a person's mind. If you can understand that before the physical, there was first a spiritual core to it, then you will be able to get a lot further in your advancement when it comes to psychology or even self-understanding. So moving forward from that, what is the energetic understanding of the masculine essence? When we're talking about energy, we have to look at masculinity expressed in various forms. If we look at masculinity only from one perspective, then we will limit ourselves and only have a small understanding of it. If we think of masculinity in the way humans present it, then we will lack the harmonious expression that lies within nature or in the universe. So when we look at masculinity viewed from the human perspective, we can see masculinity being expressed as a strong man, a man who is on his purpose, a man who has direction, who is unmoving, who is tactical, who is logical, who has goals. But also, if we move and look past the man into nature itself or other realms, we can see that even within, for example, the creative process, the masculine creates structure for the feminine to express itself. When we look at dance, for example, we have the follow and the lead in the social dance. The lead provides a structure for the follow to fill. The lead gives directions, signals, different movements that serve as a container for the follow, the feminine, to come in and fill. And that follow, the beauty of the dance is that the follow can come in and express herself in a different manner, the way that she feels is best for her. So that's another example. That's in the realm of dance, right? And if we look at a more spiritual perspective, we can think about the stories of mythology. When we have the masculine gods are usually the ones that create the universe. What do the masculine gods use to create the universe? They use feminine principles. They use feminine energies. They create from the void, from the chaos. So the masculine can also come in and create a structure for the chaos to be contained and defined. So overall, when we think about masculinity, we can think of the masculine as being direct, being systematic, being logical, being structure, being direction, being focus, while the feminine is more about fluidity, receptivity, surrendering, intuitive, feeling. Those are words that define the feminine essence. So see that within yourself, these two different dynamics, seeing those different dynamics within yourself is key to understanding yourself and seeing what is the masculine and what is the feminine, because we each carry both energies within ourselves. We both have a masculine and we both have a feminine. This is a concept that has been presented to us by the psychologist Carl Jung when he talks about the anima and the animus. Every man carries a woman within himself, one that is his feminine counterpart from within him. So although this video is about the masculine, it is also key to remember that the feminine is a part of your development, and that is something that we will talk about in a future video. But as a man, it is first important to gain extreme clarity on what is the masculine. And once you can put your finger on it, once you can see it, once you can think about who you are when you are in your masculine essence, when you are expressing your masculine core, when you can picture yourself in those scenarios, now you're getting a good grasp of how you can leverage that core for your own purposes, for your own goals, for your own objectives, for your own desires. And speaking on that, I want to highlight something very important, which is that when we're speaking about the core is also hidden underneath various layers, okay? Because when we come into the world, we are raw. And as we start developing, we start adding layers to our core, whether that be our soul or our masculine essence or who we are at a spiritual level. And those layers can be seen as the ego, as conditioning, as experiences, and all those things keep adding on top of themselves and on top of the core. And if those are not in alignment with truth, then they will distort the expression of the masculine essence. So the key here is to become a channel to express your masculine essence in its purest form. And you will see, if you think about this, distortions can create lower frequency expressions of a high frequency essence. You will see this play out. You know, when we're thinking about gangs, for example, those are an immature expression of tribalism within the masculine core. It is good to have a brotherhood. It is good to be a part of a group, of a tribe, and be contributing and being of service to your people. But when that has to do with violence and just general inclusion of drugs and gangs, then you're speaking about a lower frequency expression of the masculine core. So if a gang member, for example, were to reflect on this, on his masculine core, and think about what he is truly seeking, which might be brotherhood, which might be love, which might be connection, if he thinks about that, if he can think about that within himself, then he will see that maybe that's what drew him towards the gangs. But if he wants that for himself, he does not need to find it there, because that is only a lower expression of it. He can find it somewhere else in a different community. So that is an example of the importance of understanding the core. Because when you can see the lower expressions, you will see that you don't want to engage in those things, even though they do give you some feedback, some feeling, some taste of your masculinity. There are other areas in your life that can amplify and give you so much more fulfillment when it comes to the question of feeling masculine. For example, I think that if more men were to dance, they'd be able to find a place to learn to be masculine, to take direction, to learn to be confident around women, to learn to speak to women in a respectful manner, to be able to be intimate without having to think about sexuality, even though that is very much a part of the human experience. This is where a lot of people also begin to distort the idea of masculinity itself in the general population when they start to talk about the patriarchy or toxic masculinity, or we can talk about Andrew Tate, for example. And although, yes, there is toxic masculinity, yes, there's patriarchy, and yes, there are some negatives about Andrew Tate, those are not the complete definitions of masculinity. The masculine at its core, the divine masculine within you, and its purest form, is not any of those things. Those things are a distortion of that divine masculine. And so if you want to move away from that, move towards a higher version of yourself, a more powerful, resolute, resilient, and ideal version of yourself, then you have to take into account these lower and higher expressions. And if you want me to go deeper into these topics of the lower and higher expressions of masculinity, make sure to comment down below by saying masculinity, and I will make a video on the topic. Moving on, when speaking about the core of masculinity, I also want to talk about the archetypes of the masculine. And these four archetypes have transformed my perception on masculinity in a way that nothing else has. The four archetypes are the king, warrior, magician, and lover. And I will go into these archetypes briefly so that you get a good understanding of what it means to be a man based on these archetypes. So the first archetype is the king. The king lies within us. The king archetype is something that every single man is both influenced by and also has access to. The king represents order and stability. A man who has a strong connection to his king archetype will be able to lead his people and be connected to spirit in a way that allows him to move forward with integrity in creating his kingdom. The warrior archetype is the archetype of discipline, being able to go out into the world and take action and also do. The warrior archetype is actually very prominent in our culture as that's how a lot of people define masculinity. When they think about a masculine man, they think about a man who works out, who's got big muscles, who takes action, who's strong. That's the warrior archetype. But that is not the complete picture of masculinity, and that's something that I want to let people know. Because there are a few other forms, including the king, and the next one being the magician. The magician is the archetype of the thinker. Every man has access to the magician archetype. The man who has a good relationship to his magician archetype is a man who has access to wisdom and insight. This archetype is the archetype of the man who studies, who researches, who thinks, who introspects, who self-reflects. When you get to a certain stage of development in your journey, this archetype then becomes the wise old man or the sage, and you can enter and embody that archetype yourself. And the fourth archetype being the lover archetype. The lover is the archetype of the man who is connected to everything, who just loves and is sensual also. This archetype is the archetype that enriches a man's life through love, through compassion, through connection. And a distortion of this example can be seen in promiscuity. The man who has sex with multiple women and has a hard time settling down with one. When these four archetypes are embodied in a healthy manner, are a great representation of what a mature and ideal masculine man looks like. And underneath this all, I want to also add that one of the most important facets of the masculine essence is the desire for purpose, the need for purpose. It is essential to a man's life to understand his purpose, to be moving towards that which fulfills him, to that which challenges him, and to that which fills him with passion. And this is highlighted in David Data's book, The Way of the Superior Man. If you don't understand your purpose, you're going to have a hard time going through life as a man. It is with your purpose that you're able to choose your partner, to choose your career, to choose which direction you go in your life. And being connected to your purpose gives you a completely different way of behaving when moving around in the world. It brings you clarity. It brings you understanding of yourself, and it brings you self-awareness. So if you haven't found your purpose, then begin questioning what it is. Begin looking for it, because that's going to bring you closer to accessing your masculine gifts. And if you're curious around this topic, around purpose, make sure to click on this video above so you can learn how to find your purpose. So how do you apply this into your life? One of the simplest ways is to try to see the archetypes and how you can use them in your daily life. How can you embody the king? How can you embody the warrior? How can you embody the magician? How can you embody the lover? And also, if you're curious, check out the book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Robert Moore. I will leave a link in the description below so that you can see also the negative expressions of these archetypes and see how they have played out in your life and begin to transmute those energies, because you have access to all of these. But if you don't know them, just like Carl Jung said, that which is unconscious will plague you until it is made conscious. So understand these archetypes so that you can transmute them and begin to access these higher versions of yourself. And one key example for me was I knew that I needed to access the warrior. One of the great ways to access the warrior is hitting the gym. And if you are lacking the magician archetype, then you should begin to study, begin learning, explore your curiosity. And if you're lacking the lover archetype, then maybe You should look into art or dance or just being vulnerable, looking for ways to explore this aspect of yourself. Those are a few examples. But also another thing is, just a simple question. What does it mean for you to be structured? What does it mean for you to be clear? What does it mean for you to be purposeful? Ask yourself these questions. Watch this video and question, when am I embodying that energy? How can I bring that more into my life? Sit down, journal. And when you get those insights, make sure to apply them in your life, and you will see the changes to come. You will see how accessing your masculinity will give you the confidence to express yourself authentically. But that's it for now, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, stay lucid. Peace.